It is Sunday, June 7th, 2026. The United States currently faces three acute, simultaneous points of pressure across domestic security, international conflict, and the macroeconomic landscape. First, a mass shooting manhunt in Ohio. Second, a fractured ceasefire on day 100 of the US-Iran conflict. Third, hiring surges while real wages drop. The domestic security threat centers on Toledo, Ohio, following an exchange of gunfire at the Old West End Festival. Two separate shooters fired into crowded public spaces, hitting 12 people. The victims range in age from 61 down to just 14 years old, with two currently in critical condition. As of this morning, 0 suspects are in custody. Local authorities are actively appealing to festival attendees to submit smartphone photos and videos to help identify the shooters. Until those crowdsourced leads materialize, this remains an active, unresolved threat within the region. Overseas, today marks 100 days since the start of the US-Iran conflict. The tentative ceasefire is actively breaking down, with Iran abruptly suspending diplomatic peace talks in Tehran. This map displays the resulting military escalation. Iran launched 7 missiles targeting Bahrain and Kuwait, and US forces successfully intercepted only 6 of them. This continued instability in the Middle East is directly eroding domestic energy reserves as the administration attempts to stabilize global oil supply. This graph charts the US Strategic Petroleum Reserve's depletion. Releasing 58 million barrels caused a 14% drop to its lowest level since January 2024. This leaves a shrinking emergency buffer to absorb supply shocks if the Strait of Hormuz remains contested. A prolonged failure in diplomacy, combined with further regional spillover, now presents a direct vulnerability for America's long-term energy security and military readiness. Turning to the markets, the May jobs report initially appeared robust. The economy added 172,000 positions, driven heavily by upcoming World Cup hiring in the leisure and hospitality sectors. This comparative chart reveals the underlying problem. While hiring is up, wage growth has slowed to 3.4% annually, meaning workers' paychecks are falling nearly a full percentage point behind current inflation projections. Financial markets reacted poorly to this dynamic, as the Federal Reserve is now widely expected to tighten monetary policy to cool the economy. This gauge tracks the probability of an interest rate hike in October, which now sits above 50%, as the central bank prioritizes inflation control over raw employment numbers. The macro environment shows aggressive hiring, but the average American worker is losing real purchasing power, pointing directly toward further monetary tightening. In short, an active manhunt is ongoing in Ohio, the Middle East faces an escalating regional war with a broken ceasefire, and the Federal Reserve is heavily positioned for a hawkish pivot. The convergence of these three factors leaves both American public safety and the macroeconomy exposed to high systemic risk in the weeks ahead.